When we think about success, what comes to mind? Is it wealth, recognition, power, or perhaps the admiration of our peers? Most of us would say yes to at least one of these, even if we don't admit it openly. But have you ever stopped to consider why you want these things? Not just superficially, but deeply, what about them feels so necessary? Why do we pursue these ideals as if our lives depend on them, as if achieving them will somehow validate our existence? And here's a deeper question. Have you ever paused long enough to ask whether this entire chase is real? Because Alan Watts, in his profoundly disruptive way, would tell you that it isn't. He'd say it's an illusion, a mirage you're chasing in the desert, and worse, one that distracts you from life itself. We live in a world that teaches us from an early age that success is the ultimate goal. It's the carrot dangling in front of us, always just a little out of reach, no matter how far we stretch. But what is success? Is it a state of being, or is it a story we've been told? And if it's a story, who's writing it? Is it you, or is it society, your family, your culture? Are you living your life, or merely living out a script handed to you by forces you never even questioned? These questions may sound unsettling, but they're crucial if we want to free ourselves from this illusion. Alan Watts had a way of cutting through the noise, of showing us how deeply entangled we are in our own mental constructs. And success, as we understand it, is one of the most pervasive constructs of all. It's an idea we've built our lives around, but like all ideas, it's not real in any tangible sense. Success is a concept, a word, a symbol. And yet we live as though it's the ground beneath our feet, the air we breathe. Why? Because we've mistaken the map for the territory, the menu for the meal. We've confused the symbol of success, money, fame, achievement with the actual experience of being alive.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Think about it. How often do you hear people say they're chasing success, as if it's something out there waiting to be caught? But here's the truth. Chasing success is like chasing the horizon. No matter how fast you run, no matter how far you go, it always stays just out of reach. And even if you think you've caught it, the moment is fleeting. You get the promotion, the house, the recognition, and maybe you feel good for a while. But then what? The feeling fades, and you're left looking for the next thing, the next goal, the next success. It's a cycle that never ends because it's built on a fundamental misunderstanding, the belief that success is something external, something you achieve rather than something you experience. Watts would argue that this misunderstanding comes from our inability to be present. We're so focused on the future, on what we want to achieve, that we miss the only thing that's real this moment, here and now. Success, as we've defined it, pulls us out of the present and into a perpetual state of striving. And in doing so, it blinds us to the richness of life as it is. We become so fixated on the idea of success that we forget to live. But here's the paradox: the more you chase success, the further you get from it. Why? Because true success isn't something you can chase. It's not something you can measure or quantify. It's not in the money you earn, the titles you hold, or the recognition you receive. True success is simply being fully alive, fully present, fully yourself. It's the freedom to live without constantly needing to justify your existence through external achievements. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt truly free? Not free in the superficial sense of having some time off work or a bit of extra money to spend, but deeply, unshakably free. Free from the need to prove yourself, free from the fear of failure, free from the constant pressure to be more, do more, achieve more. For most of us, that kind of freedom feels distant, almost unimaginable. But Watts would tell you it's not only possible, it's your natural state. The only thing keeping you from it is the illusion of success, the belief that you need to be something other than what you already are. You see, the problem with success isn't just that it's an illusion, it's that it's a trap. It keeps us running on a treadmill, chasing something that doesn't exist, while the real treasures of life, love, connection, joy, peace go unnoticed. And the irony is, the very things we're chasing, happiness, fulfillment, meaning, are already here, right in front of us. But we're too busy looking ahead to see them. So how do we break free from this trap? How do we see through the illusion of success and reclaim our lives? Watts would say the first step is to stop. Stop chasing, stop striving, stop trying to be something you're not. Just be. Be here, be now, be yourself. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do because it goes against everything you've been taught. It requires you to let go of the stories you've been told about who you are and what your life is supposed to be. It requires you to face the fear that if you stop chasing success, you'll somehow lose your value, your purpose, your identity. But here's the truth: you won't. In fact, you'll find something much greater yourself. Watts often spoke about the difference between being and becoming. Our culture is obsessed with becoming successful, becoming wealthy, becoming respected. But in our rush to become, we forget how to be. And being is where life happens. It's where joy lives, where love grows, where meaning unfolds. When you're constantly striving to become something, you miss the beauty of being who you already are. And who are you? That's the question, isn't it? Who are you without your achievements, your possessions, your titles, your roles? Who are you when you strip away all the labels, all the stories, all the illusions? Most of us are terrified to ask that question because we're afraid of what we'll find. We've spent so much time building up this idea of ourselves, our ego, our persona, that the thought of letting it go feels like a kind of death. But Watts would tell you that it's not a death at all, it's a liberation. Because the self you think you are, the self you're so afraid to lose, is just another illusion. And once you see through it, you discover something far greater: the freedom to be who you really are. But what does it mean to be who you really are? It means living without the constant need for validation, without the endless striving for more. It means recognizing that you are not your achievements, not your possessions, not your reputation. You are something much deeper, much more profound. And the irony is, once you let go of the need to be successful, you often find that the things you truly need, peace, joy, connection, come to you naturally. Because they were never out there to begin with. They were always within you, waiting to be seen. So, can you see it? Can you see the illusion for what it is? Can you let go of the need to chase something that doesn't exist and start living the life that's already here? It's not easy, I know, but it's the only way to truly be free. And isn't that what we're all really looking for? Not success, not achievement, but freedom, the freedom to live, to love, to be. That's the real treasure, the real prize. And the only thing standing between you and it is the illusion of success. If you've ever stopped to examine the idea of success, really peel back its layers, you'll notice something strange. Success, as society defines it, is always conditional. It's always something you don't have yet, but might have later if you work hard enough, if you sacrifice enough, if you prove yourself worthy enough. It's always just out of reach, a little further down the road. And because of this, success is never about the present moment, it's always about the future. But here's the problem: the future doesn't exist. The only thing that's real, the only thing that ever exists, is now. So when we chase success, we're chasing something that, by definition, can never be real. Alan Watts had a way of exposing the absurdity of this. He'd ask, what is it you're striving for? What is it you think success will bring you that you don't already have? And most of us would answer with vague ideas: happiness, security, fulfillment, meaning. But here's the catch: if those things aren't already present in your life, Do you really think achieving some external goal will magically bring them to you? If you're unhappy now, will a promotion or a bigger house suddenly make you happy? Or will it just be another temporary high, followed by the same underlying dissatisfaction? The truth is, the things we associate with success, money, power, recognition are symbols, not realities. They're placeholders for deeper desires, like the desire to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel whole. But those deeper desires can never be satisfied by external things because they're not external problems, they're internal. And no amount of success can fix an issue that exists within you. In fact, the very act of chasing success often deepens the problem because it keeps you looking outward when the solutions are inward. We live in a culture that bombards us with messages about what success looks like. It's the house, the car, the career, the perfect family, the admiration of others. But who decided that? Who decided that these specific things are the markers of a successful life? And more importantly, why do we believe them? Is it because they're true, or is it because we've been conditioned to believe they're true? And if it's conditioning, then whose interests does that conditioning serve? Is it yours, or is it the interests of a system that thrives on your dissatisfaction, your constant striving, your inability to just be? Watts would argue that the entire concept of success, as we understand it, is rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of life. We see life as a journey, a path we must walk to reach some ultimate destination. But what if life isn't a journey at all? What if there's no destination, no point to reach, no goal to achieve? What if life is more like music or dance, something to be experienced and enjoyed in the moment, not something to be conquered or completed? Think about music for a moment. The purpose of music isn't to get to the end of the song. If that were the case, the best musicians would be the ones who played the fastest. No, the purpose of music is to experience it as it unfolds, to lose yourself in the melody, the rhythm, the beauty of the sound. Life, Watts would say, is no different. But we've forgotten this. We've turned life into a race, a competition, a constant striving for more. And in doing so, we've lost the ability to simply live. But here's the deeper question: why are we so afraid to stop? Why are we so terrified of letting go of this idea of success, even when it clearly isn't working for us? Is it because, deep down, we believe that without the chase, our lives would have no meaning? Is it because we've tied our sense of self-worth to our achievements, our possessions, our status? And if that's the case, what does that say about us? What does it say about a culture that equates a person's value with what they have or what they've done, rather than who they are? Watts would tell you that this fear, this need to constantly prove ourselves, is rooted in a false sense of identity. We've come to believe that we are our egos, that small, fragile sense of self that's always comparing, always striving, always afraid of being seen as less than. But the ego is just another illusion, another mental construct. It's not who you are. And as long as you identify with it, as long as you let it drive your life, you'll always be chasing something, always trying to fill a void that can't be filled. So how do we break free? How do we step off the treadmill and reclaim our lives from this endless pursuit of success? Watts would say the first step is to see the illusion for what it is. To recognize that the idea of success is just that, an idea, a story, a concept. It's not real. It has no inherent meaning or value. Its only power comes from the meaning we've given it, the importance we've attached to it. And once you see this, once you truly understand that success is just a mental construct, its grip on you begins to loosen. But seeing the illusion is only the beginning. The next step is to shift your focus from doing to being. to stop living for the future and start living in the present. This doesn't mean you stop setting goals or striving for things that matter to you. It simply means you stop tying your sense of self-worth to those goals. You stop believing that your value depends on what you achieve. Because it doesn't. Your value isn't something you earn, it's something you are. This shift from doing to being is radical because it goes against everything we've been taught. We've been conditioned to believe that our worth is measured by our productivity, our achievements, our ability to contribute to society. But what if your worth has nothing to do with any of that? What if your worth is inherent, undeniable, simply because you exist? And what if the whole point of life isn't to achieve something, but to experience it fully, to be present with it, to love and be loved? Think about the people you admire most, the ones who seem truly at peace with themselves and the world. Are they the ones who've achieved the most, who've climbed the highest, who've amassed the greatest wealth or power? Or are they the ones who've learned to live fully, to love deeply, to embrace life as it is? What if success, real success, isn't about what you accomplish, but about how you live? What if it's not about reaching some far-off goal, but about being fully present with the life you already have? And here's the most profound question: if you could let go of the need to be successful, if you could stop striving and start living, what would your life look like? Would it be simpler, more peaceful, more joyful? Would you finally have the freedom to be yourself without the constant pressure to be more, do more, achieve more? And if that's the case, then why are you holding on to this idea of success? Why are you letting it control your life? Watts would tell you that the only way to truly live is to let go. Let go of the need to prove yourself. Let go of the fear of failure. Let go of the illusion of success. Because when you do, you'll discover something incredible, that the life you've been chasing, the happiness you've been striving for, is already here. It's not in the future, not in some distant goal or achievement. It's right here, right now, in this moment. And the only thing keeping you from it is the belief that you need to be something more than what you already are. What happens when we stop chasing? When we let go of the idea that life is a competition to be won, a mountain to be conquered, or a ladder to be climbed? What happens when we stop treating life as a series of milestones to be reached, and instead allow it to simply unfold? Alan Watts would say that in this letting go, we discover something we've been missing all along: freedom. Not the kind of freedom that society talks about, freedom of choice, freedom to pursue your goals, but a much deeper, more profound freedom, the freedom to simply be. This is where we confront one of the most radical insights of Watts' philosophy, the idea that striving itself is the problem. Not just striving for success, but striving for anything. Because to strive is to imply that where you are now isn't good enough, that you need to be somewhere else, someone else, to feel complete. Striving is rooted in a sense of lack, a belief that you're incomplete as you are. And as long as you carry this belief, no amount of success, achievement, or recognition will ever satisfy you. You'll always be chasing, always hungry, always looking for the next thing to fill the void. But here's the thing: the void isn't real. It's a phantom, a shadow cast by the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we need to be happy. And like all phantoms, it disappears the moment you shine a light on it. The light, in this case, is awareness, the awareness that you are already whole, already complete, already enough. This is the heart of what Watts was trying to teach, that the life you're looking for isn't out there, it's here. It's not something you achieve, it's something you realize. But why is this so hard for us to accept? Why do we cling so tightly to the belief that we need to prove ourselves to earn our place in the world? Part of it, Watts would say, comes from our cultural conditioning. We live in a society that equates worth with productivity, that measures success in terms of output, that sees life as a problem to be solved rather than a mystery to be experienced. From the moment we're born, we're taught to compare ourselves to others, to compete, to strive. And in the process, we lose touch with the simple, undeniable truth of our existence that we are, and that is enough. But there's another reason we resist this truth, and it's a deeper, more personal one. Letting go of striving means letting go of control. It means surrendering to life as it is, rather than trying to shape it into what we think it should be. And for most of us, that's terrifying. We've built our entire sense of self around the idea that we're in control, that we're the authors of our own destiny, that we can bend the world to our will if we try hard enough. To let go of that belief feels like a kind of death, the death of the ego, the death of the story we tell ourselves about who we are. But Watts would argue that this death is actually a liberation. Because the self you think you are, the one that's always striving, always achieving, always trying to prove itself, isn't the real you. It's a mask, a persona, a collection of thoughts and ideas that you've mistaken for your true identity. And as long as you cling to this false self, you'll always feel incomplete, because the false self is defined by its incompleteness. It's always seeking, always striving, always looking for something outside itself to make it whole. But the real you, the one beneath the mask, doesn't need anything. It's already whole, already complete, already free. So how do we reconnect with this deeper sense of self? How do we let go of the false self and the endless striving that comes with it? Watts would say the first step is to stop running. Stop trying to escape the present moment. Stop trying to distract yourself with goals, achievements, and external validations. Just sit with yourself as you are, without judgment or expectation. This may sound simple, but it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Because when you stop running, all the fears and insecurities you've been trying to avoid come rushing to the surface. You're forced to confront the parts of yourself that you've been hiding from, the parts that tell you you're not good enough, that you need to do more, be more, achieve more. But here's where the magic happens. When you stop running, when you face these fears head on, you begin to see them for what they really are: thoughts. They're not truths, not facts, not realities. They're just thoughts, stories your mind is telling you. And once you see them as stories, their power over you begins to fade. You realize that you don't have to believe them, don't have to act on them, don't have to act on them, don't have to let them dictate your life. You can simply let them be, like clouds passing through the sky, while you remain grounded in the present moment. And in that moment, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel a sense of peace, a sense of freedom that has nothing to do with your circumstances or achievements. It's a peace that comes from knowing deep in your bones that you are enough, just as you are. That you don't need to prove yourself, don't need to earn your worth, don't need to chase some illusory idea of success. You are already whole, already complete, already free. But this freedom isn't just a personal experience, it has profound implications for how you live your life. When you let go of the need to prove yourself, you also let go of the fear of failure. You stop making decisions based on what you think others will think of you, or what you think you're supposed to do, and start living from a place of authenticity. You start doing things not because they'll make you successful, but because they're meaningful to you. Not because they'll impress others, but because they bring you joy. And in doing so, you discover a kind of success that isn't measured by external standards, but by the quality of your inner life. This is the paradox that Watts loved to point out: the less you strive for success, the more successful you become, not in the superficial, societal sense, but in the deeper, truer sense of living a life that feels rich, fulfilling, and free. Because real success isn't about achieving something, it's about being something. It's not about what you have or what you do, it's about who you are. And who are you? That's the question that lies at the heart of all of this. Who are you without your achievements, your possessions, your titles, your roles? Who are you when you strip away all the layers of conditioning, all the stories you've been told about who you're supposed to be? Watts would say that the answer isn't something you can put into words, because the real you isn't a concept or an idea. It's not something you can define or label. It's simply the awareness, the presence, the beingness that underlies everything you think you are. But here's the challenge: can you let go of the need to know? Can you let go of the need to define yourself, to categorize yourself, to fit yourself into some neat little box? Can you simply be, without trying to be anything in particular? This is the ultimate freedom, the ultimate success. And it's not something you achieve, it's something you allow. It's not something you find, it's something you realize. It's not something out there, it's something within you, something that's been there all along, waiting for you to stop chasing and start seeing.